Okay, come, let's start. So today we'll be going through your 2018 paper. Just in case you all don't know, this is the past year paper for 2018. So make sure you write this down. So whenever I refer to the year of the paper, you know which paper I'm talking about. Okay. Now, whenever you are doing a question, doesn't matter whether is it MCQ or is it open-ended. You need to first identify, the very first thing you need to identify is always the topic. And then the second thing you need to identify is the concept. What do I mean by that? So for example, in the very first question, Alan saw a mimosa plant on the ground. He touched it gently and observed that the leaves closed up immediately. What does this tell you about living things? So keywords, right, will actually tell you which topic it belongs to. So the keywords here, living things, hints you that the topic is under classification, living things versus non-living things. Okay? Now, so under living and non-living things, there are many concepts under classification. So for this concept, right, what they are testing you would be the properties of living things. So how do you know that, this particular object is a living thing, right? So you know that because living things have certain properties. So for example, living things, they die. Living things, they reproduce. Living things grow. Living things respond to changes. And living thing requires air, food, and water to survive. Okay, I'm going to zoom in so that you can copy it properly. Alright, so once you have actually gotten these properties down, this concept, alright, you see, once I got the concept right, which I know is properties of living things, all these points should flood into my mind. So all these things you have to memorize now. But of course, by narrowing down the topic and then the concept, you focus on the correct points. Alright, and then after that, ask yourself, what are they trying to test you? So in this question, they said that the mimosa plant actually closes immediately. So, but it closes because there is a stimulus. Shh, quiet. So stimulus basically something to cause the change. For example, when someone ons the aircon until like 16 degrees Celsius, it's very cold. The stimulus is the cold air, and then you will take a jacket and you put it on. So you are a living thing. You are actually responding to the change because somebody actually turn down the temperature of the air conditioner. Alright, so the stimulus is the cold air. So in this case, the stimulus is actually the touching of the leaves. So when you touch, there's a change in pressure. And your living thing, which is the plant, okay, it is able to sense it. So it responds to changes. So you see the way I analyze it. Okay. Now, in MCQ, you should also try and eliminate your answers to make sure that you got the correct answer. So that's how you check. A lot of time, let's just say if it's me, if I have the time, I'm very fast, I will check on the spot to make sure that, is it talking about living things grow? Not quite, because there's no change in size. So I will put there, okay, no change in size. So answer, no, not plausible. So I don't have to write it down, but mentally, okay, this should go through my mind as to why this is not the answer, because I don't see it changing in size. Correct now? So why am I writing this down? Is to externalize my thoughts for you, so you know how I think. Now, in actual exams, if I'm very slow, I'm someone who is not very good with my time management. I will do one time finish the whole paper first. Do not leave anything blank. Okay, especially for MCQ. It is very silly because you could get it correct by sheer luck. Alright, but it shouldn't be sheer luck. You should at least be able to eliminate. Okay, so for example, there are 4 options here. Out of the 4 options, 2 is very obvious one. Really. Like for example, this is also no. Why? Because I don't see no change in number of organism. Right? So I know that, okay, this is also no. Very straightforward. So the only 2 that is more plausible is number 3 and number 4. Why? Because number 4 is more abstract. You cannot really count. Like living things grow, you can see the change in size, right? Living things reproduce, you can count the number of organisms. But for 3 and 4, they're quite close but yet quite not. Why? Because for 4 there is no water, I don't see food, okay? I cannot see air, but air is transparent to begin with. So to me, right, 3 and 4 is the closest. Let's just say I don't know. But at least I can eliminate out of 4 answers. 2 is confirmed, can eliminate very easily. The chances of getting it correct is 50%. Okay, usually for MCQ. So, elimination method works very well when you're not sure. Justify for yourself why that is not the answer. Okay, moving on. Next question. In which part of the digestive system is food absorbed into the bloodstream? Now, so in this case, keywords, digestive system, absorb, bloodstream. Straight away, I know the topic that they are talking about in this case is the digestive system. Alright? And then after that, the concept that they are testing me on is actually functions of digestive organ. So straight away, when I identify the concept, what must come to my mind? Mr. Chang say must memorize what are the functions of the different parts of your organs. And there is no other way around it one. 0, cannot run, don't have. So I need to recall. Mr. Chang say must memorize. Okay, come. Let's see what are the options given. I know that gullet, okay, it is about transport, right? Gullet transport food from mouth to stomach. Stomach. Stomach I know got 2 functions. One is to mash, churn and mash. The food. The second function of your stomach, I'm going to arrow it down because no space. The second function of your stomach is actually to have digestive juice. To produce digestive juice for digestion of food. Now, the digestive juice in this case, there's a special name, is called gastric juice. Okay, additional info, you don't really have to know. And then after that, your small intestine, I'm going to bring it down here. Okay, it has 2 functions also. The first function is to produce digestive juice to completely digest food. So remember this, your small intestine is the one that actually completes the digestion of your food. This is the site. Okay? The second function, alright, is to absorb digested food, okay, into the bloodstream. Now, it is very important to use the keyword digested food. Okay, the keyword here is digested food. You cannot just say food. So food here can mean my whole hamburger, you know. That's not possible. It has to be digested. And when it comes to the digestive system, we are looking at keywords like this. And then after that, we have your large intestine is to absorb excess water and mineral salts from undigested food. Okay, so once again, be very careful. Now, this case is undigested food. Because if you don't have this keyword undigested food, the examiner has to guess. Are you talking about food? Are you talking about undigested food? Or are you talking about digested food? So these are the keywords that has to be there and needs to be there. So when you memorize, right, you need to memorize this. Okay? So what you can, from what you can see here, can you see as I go through, I'm actually revising with you exactly how you must memorize. Now there is one other important organ that is not here. I'm just going to write it down for you. Since we are already nearly like completing everything, your mouth. Now the mouth has two important functions. Oh, okay. Now, for your mouth, right, there are two important things. The first one is that it helps to break up. Break up and break down is two different things. Break up your food into smaller pieces. Okay, so that's the first function. Okay, through the action of chewing, food is broken up. Broken up, not broken down. Broken down means digested into smaller pieces to increase surface area for faster digestion by digestive juice. You all don't have to write so big. I write so big so that you all can see. Okay. Now there is a second function. I do not have space, so I'm going to put it here. Now the second function of the mouth is that it produces digestive juice to digest food. Now, just in case you don't know, the name of the digestive juice is saliva. Alright, so the first function, whenever you talk about breaking up food, is to increase surface area, okay, for faster digestion by your digestive juice. So you have to tell me, what are the keywords? Breaking it up, smaller pieces. What does this do? Increase surface area. Why? Faster digestion. By who? Digestive juice. Okay, so this reason is the same reason for your stomach. So remember your stomach over here, we say that it actually churns and mash the food. So by mashing the food, you are also breaking it up. Okay? Please copy all these things down. When you are ready, put your pen down and look up. Do not talk, so I know that I can move on to the next question. Alright, moving on in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time extension 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So, as you can see, this is a memory question. If you never memorize the function of the various organs, there is no way, I repeat, no way that you can answer this question, like which I told you in my earlier lesson. So they ask you which one absorb digested food. Okay, so the answer would be your answer number 3, small intestine. Okay, because your small intestine is the one that absorbs, completes digestion of food and absorption of it into the bloodstream. Okay, moving on. Next, the diagram shows a plant. So this, what's the topic? Plant parts. What's the concept? They're testing you on the various function of the plant parts. So once again, whenever they test for function, right, you need to memorize. There's no technique, there's no special thing about it. You just need to memorize. Okay, very quickly. Okay, let's see. Now, so I'm gonna label for you just in case y'all don't remember. I'm sure y'all know that this is a leaf. Okay, this could be a fruit. So be very careful. I don't know. Maybe it's a fruit. I think this is a flower. So I'm gonna label it based on what I think is commonly there. Now, you may think that, Mr. Chong, why are you wasting time labeling things that we already know? Now, because some of you are not very familiar about what are the parts. You look at something and you straight away assume that it's a flower. But wait, it could also be a fruit, you know. So you need to look carefully. Is there another structure that actually looks like a flower, but it could be a fruit, or fruit that looks like a flower? You might want to just make sure. Okay? So in this case, R is definitely the stem. What's the function of R is to basically hold the plant upright. Why do you want to hold the plant upright? Okay, so R is the stem. Okay, like what I told you. So the stem holds the plant upright, to help the plant absorb maximum amount of sunlight or amount of light. Okay, think about it. Why? If the leaves are drooping, if the whole plant is bent downwards, okay, your leaves are not upright, it cannot absorb, okay, any light. It may be blocked by other leaves or whatever object. Okay, taking in of mineral salts and your water, these two, this is the function of your roots. Now your mineral salts is actually dissolved. Just in case you all don't know, is dissolved inside your water. So this is the reason why when you take in water, you also take in mineral salts, and hence they're always together. So you can think of your mineral salts like your, you know, we did, I showed you the experiment on the celery, on how it got colored red color because you use red dye in the water. So you can think of the dye pigments, okay, the dye substance of the red pigment as mineral salts that got dissolved in the water. So when the roots take in the water, it will take in together as well. Now the process of making food is known as photosynthesis. Please learn how to spell. Okay, and it's carried out by your leaves. Now a bit of revision now. Your leaves are the reason why it can carry out photosynthesis is because your leaves actually, leaf cells contain chloroplast. Very good. That contains chlorophyll. Okay, wait. So let me rewrite this just in case y'all cannot see. Okay, which actually traps sunlight or traps light. Okay, for photosynthesis. So in fact, the way I write my notes, you should learn how to, because it shows you what are the key points. Do you realize? Chloroplast is a key point, chlorophyll is a key point, trapped sunlight is a key point, photosynthesis is a key point. Okay, so by writing notes, that is how you should be writing notes when you practice. So this will help you identify what are the key points needed in your answer. So they're asking for R. So the answer for this question would be number 4. Hold the plant upright. Moving on in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, this question is pretty straightforward. This topic is obviously on cycles. So they ask you, what is the growth of a young plant with the 2 missing stages? So this is the seed. Oops, sorry. Right, so from the seed, okay, it will actually become, it will grow the roots, and then after that, it will start to sprout, okay, or germinate. That's what they call it in proper words, and then become a small young plant. Not yet adult. So how do you know that something that is adult? Okay, be very careful. No, not very big. Hello, how do you justify something that's very big on paper? Yes, exactly. Well done. So an adult, right, what it does is that it has flowers or fruits. Now the minute that you see flowers is known as an adult plant already. Obviously, because why? With flowers, you're able to reproduce. And of course, when you see fruits, you know that it's for sure an adult plant, because in order to get fruits, you must have flowers first. And since when you have flower is considered an adult, then you have fruits which comes after flower. Obviously, this plant must be an adult plant. So I'm glad that you all pointed it out and said something about size. No, it's not about size. It's about what you see in the picture. Okay, it's about what you see. So you're looking out for things like flowers, fruits. Okay, be very careful. Now another point that I want to also jump in and talk about is that I know it's not related to this topic, but it's related to classification of flowering and non-flowering plants. Be very careful. The tricky part about it, right, is they will show you a diagram with a plant. It has leaves, and then after that it's got fruits. And they ask you, do you classify this as a flowering or non-flowering plant? This is actually a flowering plant, because in order to get fruits, you need flowers. You see? You see the relationship now? In order to get fruit, you need flowers. So because of that, this is a flowering plant. So they may ask you this question based on the diagram above, or which of the following statement is correct or incorrect. So if they say that this is a non-flowering plant, it's actually wrong, because you have fruits. To get fruits, you need flowers. Okay, so the flowers have wilted away. That's one. The next thing is, if it reproduces by seeds, it has to be flowering plants as well. In order to have seeds, you also need to have flowers. Okay, there is no way around it. So you realize, right? Things like your ferns, your fungi. Okay, more of your ferns lah, because we're talking about flowering and non-flowering. So non-flowering plants, you're very comfortable with things like your ferns and your moss, correct? So basically, right, these kind of green plants, they are able to make their own food, but they reproduce by spores. So hence they do not have fruits or flowers. Okay, so be very careful about that. So in this case, the answer is very straightforward. You are looking at number 4. Okay, so can you see the second one has leaves? Okay, which shows that it becomes a young plant. Next. Okay, this is life cycle. Okay, obviously the topic is life cycle. Okay, the concept here is they want you to memorize, or they want you to know, okay, what is the life stage of a butterfly, because that is a requirement. So once again, you need to memorize. Remember last year, you need to memorize. So butterfly is 4 stage. Okay, so remember, it's a cycle. So it doesn't matter which point does it start at, but definitely it needs to start. So that means, right, it doesn't mean that I definitely, okay, so obviously most of you all know that this is egg lah, okay, so this is stage 1. Then after that, most of you will know that, oh, the caterpillar hatches, and then it becomes a pupa, and then after that, becomes a butterfly. Now the tricky part is, all of you think that, okay, because B is number 1, it must start from position 1. Position 2, 3, 4, 5. Now position 4. Now in a cycle, because it's a cycle, it's cyclic in nature, there is no such thing as position 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't have. So some of you may choose number 4 because you think that if this is number 1, so it need number 1 must matches with B ma. Okay, no, this is wrong. Because what comes after this from B is actually straight away to pupa. D. You see that? It's wrong. So your answer in this case, the correct one should be actually 1. Now reason being that you just need to follow. Okay, so from B, the next one I go to must be what? C. And then from C, the next one I go to must be D. And then from D, the next one I go to must be A. And then after from A, it must go back to B, because it's a cycle. So the position does not matter. It is the sequence that matters, because it's a cycle. It's the sequence. Okay? So that means caterpillar must always come after egg. And then after that, caterpillar must always come after caterpillar must always come after egg, and then pupa must always come after caterpillar, and then butterfly, adult butterfly must always come after your pupa. And then after that, repeats back to egg. Alright? Next. Okay. Next question. Billy put a metal solid block into a container of water. So, which position A, B, C, D would the metal solid mass be most likely to found? Very straightforward. They are testing you on what? Metal. Okay, they are testing you on what? Yes, mass here. Which one has a greater mass? So in this case, we know that it's a solid metal block. It definitely has a bigger mass. Actually, the concept we're talking about here is density. Okay, Yes, it is more dense, it is a greater mass than water, it will sink right to the bottom. So answer D. Straightforward. Okay. So whenever you talk about this, okay, you have to talk about who has a greater mass or who has a higher density. Okay, to decide where is the positioning. Okay, so if let's just say you talk about they give you oil has a lighter density or has less density than water, it will float. Okay, you must always compare when you give reasoning. Okay, which one of the following two magnets will push each other away when they are brought near each other? Straight away, your topic will be what? Magnet. Forces of magnet, forces, magnet, and then after that your concept should be like and unlike poles of okay, so let's do a very quick revision. We know that for magnets, like poles, when we say like poles means that they are the same. Joke, focus. This is the time for you to catch up. Like poles means that they repel, they push each other away. Okay, they don't like each other because they're too similar. Okay, repel. Unlike poles means they are opposite. Okay, they attract, they like each other. You can think of it as because they are different, so they find each other very interesting. Okay? Yeah, one boy, one girl, very good, okay? Only you can think of such things. Okay, so you look at the first one, the answer is the first one. Why? Because you want something that push each other, ma. So in exam, right, what you can do is, because you're not very familiar with the, maybe you're like, okay, I know repel, I know attract. How come got push each other away? What does it mean to push each other away? So in this case, the push each other away means to repel. That's how you actually help yourself unpack the question. So you know, then after that, straight away you know, okay, Mr. Chong said like poles repel. So I'm looking for two magnets that are facing each other in the exact same direction. So the answer is number 1 because it's south pole and south pole. This is north pole and north pole. Okay. Oh, just in case y'all don't know, S stands for south, N stands for north. Just in case. Hey, I don't need you to comment. Next. So you want to check and eliminate. Just to make sure that, okay, it is correct. So these two will attract because opposite. These two will attract because opposite. This one will also attract opposite. So cross, cross, cross. So you see how easy is it that score that 2 marks. If you have to do this in open-ended, if I convert this to open-ended question, explain which set of magnets will push each other away. Wow, you have to say set 1. This is because both the south pole of one magnet is facing the south pole of the other magnet. Similarly, the north pole of one magnet is also facing the north pole of another magnet. Therefore, because they are like poles facing each other, they will repel each other. 2 marks compared to doing this. Which one is easier? Of course, this one, right? So be very careful. This is like 3 marks, like that, you know. Okay. Now, question 8. Which of the following properties is true for both apple juice and air? Now, straight away, I see the word properties. I see juice and air. Okay. So these are 2 different states. Okay. These are 2 different states. Alright. This is actually liquid. And this is actually gas. So this tells me that the topic that they are actually going at is at matter. And then the concept that they want to test me on is properties of different states of matter. Now, so when I'm doing this, right, whenever I encounter this question, I will come up with a table. Okay, I know you all have seen me do it many times, but I want to do it again for those of you who missed out. So the first thing I will always put here is, I want to put here matter, or rather state of matter. Okay, and then after that, I put here definite shape. The next one is definite volume. Okay, please excuse my writing because I'm trying to really save time. So we have three different methods to actually look at. We have solid, liquid, and the last one is gas. So we know that for definite shape means fixed, cannot change one. Solid has, liquid don't have, gas also don't have. Definite volume, okay, solid has, okay, liquid has, gas don't have. Okay, so I always like to use this. Okay, now let's go back to the question, which is true for both. Okay, they both can be seen. This is wrong. Why? Because air cannot be seen. Right? They take up space. This is true. Because be it whether it can be compressed or it cannot be compressed, does my air still take up space? Yes, because in order to be a matter, okay, it has to occupy space and have a mass. They have fixed shapes. This is wrong. Right? Because based on my table here, I know that my liquid and gas don't have fixed shape. They have fixed volume. This is also wrong because based on my table, I know that liquid has a fixed volume but not my gas. So therefore, the answer is number 2. That's how I do it. I eliminate and then I use the table to help me. Okay, alright. So we're going to continue with question 10. Oh, sorry, question 9. Okay, we've finished question 8 already. Question 9. Tobias boiled some water in the pot as shown below. He is able to hold the pot of boiling water using rubber handles. This is because rubber is a etc, etc, etc. Now, so for this concept, sometimes the concept that is the topic that's being tested here is actually heat and temperature. Okay? Now, heat and temperature, under the concept here is, I'm just going to write the concept itself because I think the topic is pretty obvious, it's heat. It's actually insulators and good conductors and poor conductors of heat. Okay? Good conductors and poor conductors of heat. So whenever you're looking at this conductor of heat, right, you're always looking at the rate at which heat can pass through this item. So for a good conductor of heat, you always want to point out, especially when you're writing for open-ended question. Okay, a good conductor of heat will allow heat to pass through quickly. Now, do not say easily. I stress again. In fact, I'm going to do it here. You are very good at telling me easily. This is wrong. Common misconception. What is easily? Easily is such a vague word. Okay, so please do not do that. Okay? A poor conductor of heat does not allow heat to pass through quickly. Okay? Does not allow heat to pass through quickly. Okay? It's very weird to say that it allows heat to pass through quickly. Because the whole idea of anything is you want it to move, right? So a poor conductor of heat is to prevent it from passing through quickly. So if you were to look at this instance, I'm going to be a little bit long-winded here, okay? Because I want to do a very complete revision with you. Now when you heat up your water and it's boiling, now remember, when you always think about the topic of heat, you must always understand that heat always travels from a region of higher temperature to a region of lower temperature. Another key concept, write this down. This is absolutely key in your answer and your conceptual understanding. So even though this is MCQ and not open-ended question, you will actually understand, or you will actually know that it is still needed. Okay? So what do I mean by that? So even for this question, though it's not testing you directly, it's the concept that's tested is more on good conductors and poor conductors of heat. You will still need to understand that heat will travel from a higher region of temperature. So the highest region was actually from the heat source, right, which is a fire in this case. So heat will travel from this part to your water, okay, and then your water, because it's boiling, it has a higher temperature than your pot. And then from your pot, it will travel to your handles, and if your hands are here, eventually it will be to your hands. The key idea is a poor conductor of heat prevents the heat from traveling from, I'm going to use a different color to show you, from your handle to your heat quickly. So because it passes slowly, your hands don't get burnt. Okay? So the answer is because rubber is a poor conductor of heat. Any questions so far? Oh, okay. Moving on in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Next, Joseph shown a torch on a rubber ball as shown below. Which of the following will likely be seen on the screen? So basically for this kind of question, right, it's testing you that, okay, number 1, material. Now, how is material involved in light and shadow? Very straightforward. The material that is involved, the concept in this case is talking about transparent, translucent, opaque. Now you need to understand that rubber is an opaque material. Opaque meaning that it does not allow any light to pass through. This is a definition that you need to know. Okay? Versus another type of material which is translucent. So for translucent material, it allows some light to pass through. Versus transparent. Allows most light to pass through. Okay, so you need to be very, very clear of the 3 types or 3 properties of material in this case. Okay, what are the 3? Opaque. Let me use a different color highlighter. Opaque, translucent, transparent. You need to be very clear about the definition. Okay, is it some amount? Is it most amount? Or is it no amount of light? This needs to be in your answer when you write for open-ended question. Must. Okay, now to form a shadow, the path of the light must be blocked, okay, by a certain material. And guess what? All three types of materials can form a shadow. I repeat again. All three types can form a shadow in real life. Okay? This question came out for weighted assessment according to your notes. So we're going to take reference from your notes. But what type of shadow do they form? So the type of shadow that they form for opaque is a dark shadow. Dark and solid shadow. Translucent is a faint shadow. Transparent is also faint shadow. Now let's be honest. Your transparent, right, when you shine something through, let's say glass or even a bottle, you will still get a very faint shadow. It will not be no shadow form. Some textbook put there no shadow, but in real life, definitely there is a shadow. Just look at your bottle of hand sanitizer. Okay, a very faint shadow will be formed. Even your glass windows, you can sometimes see very faint shadow forming. Okay?
But if you are in
Now, so this question is asking you what will be formed. Now, what will you see on the screen? Now, understand that because this is a solid, and then after that, your light rays travels in a straight line. So basically, anything that hits the ball will be blocked. And what you will form is actually a circular part. Sorry, I'm trying to shade it. That doesn't seem to want to shade. Okay, like this. The surrounding part of the round figure should be lighted up. So answer should be number 3. Okay, now this kind of question sometimes, right, they can be very tricky. Instead of giving you a ball, they give you like a rectangular kind of like a cuboid shape. Something like this. Okay, so as you can see, if you look at this side, this is a rectangle. If you look at this side, it's a square. Okay, for example, my apologies, my drawing is not very accurate, but you get what I mean. So the point about it is you need to see which side is facing the light source. If the square part of it is facing the light source, then your shadow will be a square. If the rectangular surface is facing the light source, then it will be a rectangular shape that's being formed. Okay, it needs a bit of imagination. Moving on. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Next question. Bala has 4 organisms: spider, bird, fish, and dog. He classified them according to the flow chart. So this question, okay, is on the topic would be classification. Now take note, for flow charts, right, it's very easy to score. You just need to open your eyes and follow the train of thoughts presented by your flow chart. Now, the most easiest way is to read it out to yourself mentally, of course, in exams. And then it will make sense. So, for example, does it live in water? Yes, it's fish. Now, what is remaining would be your spider, bird, and dog. Then they ask you, which question would you ask that the dog is a no, but yes for spider and bird? So then you look at the question. Now, you should use elimination method, which I'm going to show you how. So question X, does it produce milk for its young? The dog, it doesn't. Now, this is actually wrong, but you should justify why, okay? In your mind, you should think already, mammals produce milk. Sorry, keep misspelling it. So because you know that mammals produce milk, dog is a mammal, this is wrong. Why? Because they say no. Does it lay eggs? Okay, it's true, dog doesn't, so correct. Correct. Does it give birth to the young alive? Wrong. Why? Once again, the answer for it is a no. But you know that mammals give birth to young alive. Alright? To young alive. So straight off, I can eliminate option 1 and 4. Now I look at Y and I try to fit in. I don't even have to look at option 1 and 4 already because I did X it out. So I look at 2 and 3. Does it have feathers is the question. So, does it have question? Spider? No. Correct. Bird? Yes, correct. Okay, this is correct. Oh, sorry. My bad. I'm not looking at option 1 already. So this is correct. Okay? So, option 2, does it lay eggs and does it have feathers? Seems to be correct. But wait, in exam, I always want to be very sure because MCQs can be very tricky. I want to make sure that I don't get the wrong answer. So to make sure, I will look at option 3. Does it move about freely? Spider answer is no. Wrong, right? Spider can move freely on its own, right? No issue, right? So this is a wrong answer. Okay, so wrong. So they both can move around freely. So based on this, I know that for sure my answer is number 2. And I'm very certain of it. And that is how your MCQ questions are supposed to be done. Alright, you see how I have eliminated the answers. Like that. Next. Study the table below. Okay, so obviously it's on classification again because you have non-flowering plant and fungi. Alright. The question asks, which of the following about the non-flowering plants and fungi shown in the above table are correct? So this is testing you on your knowledge of non-flowering plant as well as your fungi. Now, can they make food? Alright, non-flowering plant, yes. Fungi, no. Correct. Now, the reason why it's able to make its own food is you must understand that it has green leaves. Now, because it is green, it tells you that the cells contain what? Chloroplast, which then contains chlorophyll. And the function of chlorophyll is to trap light for photosynthesis. Okay? Whereas your fungi is usually brown in color. B. Do they feed on decaying matter? Non-flowering plant, no, that is correct because they are able to make their own food. Yes. Okay? That's true. Now on the side note, your fungi, they do not need to just feed on decaying matter. They can also feed on living things. Remember that. So how do you remember that? Okay, remember some people got food fungi infections. That's something they always remember, right? You can get a fungi infection. You're not dead, but yet you have fungi growing on your feet. Okay? Next, C. How do they reproduce? By seeds, by spores. By seeds is wrong, by spores is yes. Now, how do you realize this? This is extremely, extremely important. Listen. When you can only reproduce by seeds if you have fruits. And your fruits actually comes from,
Flower.
yes. So therefore, by seeds you can only have flowering plants. And this is a very tricky question. Sometimes in exam, they show you a picture of a plant that only has fruits and no flower. And they will say things like, plant X is a non-flowering plant, true or false, something like that. The answer is actually false, even though you don't see any flowers. Why? Because in order to have fruit, you must have flowers. Okay? So be very careful. And so as long as you see that the plant has a fruit, it means that it reproduces by seeds, because the seeds are in the fruit, even though you don't see it, and it's a flowering plant. So which of the above is or are correct? Okay, A and B is correct, therefore answer number 2. Now I also want you to take note of how I put the tick and how I circle my answers. Why? This is to prevent me from making any mistakes in exam, and to make sure that I'm very clear about how did I arrive that my answer is A and B. Okay, when I circle it, okay, and then I cross out C, so I don't make a mistake. These are skills that you need to know. Remember, MCQ, you need to score full marks. Number 13, doing an overseas trip, Indrani saw an animal which she has never seen before. She read up on it and noted the following pieces of information. Its adult lay eggs in still water. Whenever you see still water, it's a hint to you that this is mosquito. 4 state line circle confirms it. Adult stage of the animal has wings. Yes, the young of the adult does not look like the adult because it's the nymph. So which animal below has similar characteristics? Mosquito. Okay? Alright? Mosquito. Now, so you actually need to remember what are the life stages of different organisms, if you remember last year's paper. Okay? Now let's revise a bit. Beetle, how many stage?
3.
Okay. Mosquito, how many stage? Butterfly, how many stage? 4. So,
But it doesn't make it.
yes, but it doesn't lay egg in water, it lays eggs on leaves. Okay. Mosquito, how many? 4.
4.
Lay eggs in water. Grasshopper, how many?
4. 3.
3. Okay, it has a nymph.
You don't know?
Alright? So therefore, please take note of this. Okay? Moving on. The diagram below shows the same plant before and after the gardener had trimmed off some of its leaves. How is the plant different after trimming? So take a look. Now, whenever you have this kind of experiment, right? Very simple. Compare plant A and plant B and ask yourself what is the difference. So from here you know that plant B has less leaves. And then ask yourself what is the function of the leaves? How does it imply? So the function of the leaves is to produce food. So because the main thing is that it produces food, alright? So now that it has less, that means B must be carrying out less photosynthesis, therefore less food. So after trimming, the plant is able to make less food. Very straightforward, and that's how I get the answer. But I want to check to make sure that the rest of the answer are wrong. Remember, that's what I always teach you. Absorb more water is wrong. Why? Because this is actually by your roots. Your roots are the same, no difference, same. Okay? Absorb more mineral salts is also by roots. Roots the same, so no difference. And be very careful, your mineral salts, they're actually dissolved in water, in the soil. Okay? So, whatever items that can dissolve in water will also go up to the plant together with the water. Another example that we have talked about recently would be actually your colored dye. So remember in transport, if you don't remember, your xylem. Now, you need to actually remember that, hey, okay, you need to actually remember that your water goes up to the plant through the xylem, coloring it red. The reason why it's colored red is because the dissolved dye goes up together. Okay? Hold less firmly to the ground. This is actually function is actually by the roots. Okay? Now, can we go back to one question? I just realized something. Your beetle, right? I want to change is 4 stage. Okay? Eggs, larva, pupa, and then adult. Alright, but it doesn't lay eggs in water. Alright, I just want to be clear about this. Next. Moving on. Okay, this is a very common question. Now this question, alright, Braden wanted to find out whether the presence of sunlight affects the growth of a plant. He had 4 similar setup of the same type of plant, okay, in pots placed in different locations as shown. He watered the plants with the same amount of water daily. So the first thing whenever you want to find out something about any experiment, okay, any experiment, there can only be one variable change. Now in this case, the variable change has to be whether there is sunlight or no sunlight. This is actually the change variable. This should be what you're looking out for because you want to know whether or not it affects the growth of plant. Yes, Natasha? Yes, correct. One variable change, yes. Oh, sorry, there can. Alright. So basically, they will then go on to ask you which 2 setup should he use to carry out a fair experiment. Now, take note, the location here, right, actually relates to whether light is present or not. Okay, usually they talk about location, it refers to that. Now, which 2 setup should he use? So one should have a sun and the other shouldn't have. Okay? Now, actually, there are 2 plausible answers here. I repeat, 2 plausible answers. So the first, possible and plausible, they mean the same thing, but they're spelled differently, just in case you don't know. I'm teaching a new vocabulary, it's called plausible. Yes. Now, so basically, as long as everything else is the same, just that one setup has sun and the other don't have, you're good to go. So in setup A, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 8 leaves. Okay, the other one that has 8 leaves is which other setup? Okay, so A and C is actually plausible because the only difference is that one has a black box. So the black box actually prevents light from reaching the plant. Alright, so that means your plant is not able to, so no light, what will happen? Wait, but before it dies, it's not able to what? Good, not able to make food or photosynthesize. So when it cannot make food, it will actually grow slower. Okay, when you compare to setup A. Now my next question to you is setup B and D, can you use it or not? Any issues?
Yes.
Can. Why? Because same number of leaves ma. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. No issues. I can use setup B and setup A. And setup D, sorry. Can use what? One got sun, one don't have. Now in actual fact, I would have actually put them in the same area. There's a bit of an error in this question. I would have actually placed them in the same area. It's just that I will cover one with box. You know why must be same location, right? Because everything else, everything else must be the same. By putting them in different location, you actually sort of, you have actually made a fundamental mistake in experiment already, but never mind. So you put them all in the same area, and then you cover one with box and without box, okay? So you know that A and C and B and D also can. But remember this, do they even have the option? So they got B and D or not? Don't have. So because B and D, okay, is not an option. So very straightforward, what? A and C. That's the reason why. Let's take a look at why the rest cannot. A and D cannot because different number of leaves. So wrong. B and C cannot. Why? Because different number of leaves. Cannot. C and D. Okay, why cannot? Because different number of leaves. So cannot. So the only plausible answer is number 1 in the options given. So this is still quite straightforward. You are only in trouble if they give you B and D also. Alright, moving on in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Moses, focus. Next. Elizabeth ate a piece of pizza for lunch. The following statements show what happened when food is moved through some parts of the digestive system. So straight away, this will have hinted you that the topic is on digestion. Now remember, for digestion, right, there is no way, absolutely no way, you need to memorize the function. Attention, attention, you have to memorize the function of all digestive organs. There is no way, no other way. Now I'm not going to write down because in the very first question or earlier question I've already revised with you what are the functions already. Now, A, digested food is absorbed into the bloodstream. Okay, is this true or false? True. Okay, so which part is this? Small intestine. Now be very careful. Sometimes they will trick you. Make sure it's digested food and not just food alone. If it's just food alone, cannot. That means your whole hamburger get absorbed into the bloodstream. That's not possible. B, the strong muscles in the organ churn and mash the food. Yes, this is actually your stomach. The food is rolled into a ball and pushed down into the muscular tube through. Rolled into a ball, this is your mouth. Push down the muscular tube, this is your gullet. So this is true. The water from the undigested food is absorbed into the bloodstream. Okay, this is actually correct also, and this is your large intestine. Now, they ask you which of the following has which one of the following has arranged the above processes in the correct order. Now, by identifying who does what in this ABCD, I'm able to know the sequence. Why? Because I know the sequence of my digestive system, right? First goes through the mouth, then the gullet, then the stomach, then the small intestine, and then finally large intestine. So because of that earlier identification, I straight away know This is number 1, because my mouth is here, followed by my gullet. This is number 2, because from the gullet it goes into the stomach. This is number 3, because then after that from stomach goes to small intestine. This is number 4, because large intestine is last to absorb water from undigested food. So therefore, the answer should be C, B, A, D. Answer number 4 is the correct one. So can you see how I'm processing it? By identifying the organs involved in the processes, because I memorize it, I'm able to straight away arrange it based on the arrangement or the order of organs that my food will pass through. Okay? Moving on in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Gentle reminder that I'll be marking your paper for annotations. So I hope that you've annotated it diligently. Next, which of the following human body system work together to enable the person to run? Okay. So remember, in systems, right, the whole idea is different systems need to work together. So your skeletal is a need. Why? Because it provides support. In this case, your muscular is needed because muscles are needed to move the bones, the joints and the bones lah, basically. And your bones support your muscles. Okay? Circulatory is also needed to deliver food, or rather digested food, and oxygen to all cells, or rather muscle cells in this case. And then your respiratory system helps to take in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. So they work together. They work together in order to get the man running. Okay? And if you can see, the oxygen actually comes from here. Okay, so when your circulatory system delivers oxygen, the oxygen is taken in by the body by your respiratory system. So without your respiratory system, your circulatory system cannot be bringing any oxygen to your cells. And without that, respiration cannot take place and no energy will produce. Okay? Similarly, for digested food, you will need your digestive system to digest your food first, right? Before you can get digested food. And then, same thing, your skeletal and muscle, they need to work hand in hand in order to produce movement. So answer is A, B, C, and D. All 4. So the key concept of this question is to recognize. Okay, the key concept that is tested here is to recognize. Yeah, maybe I don't use such a difficult. Is to know that different organ systems work together to enable an organism to function. So the organism that we're talking about in this case is the man. So it doesn't have to be a man always. It depends on the question. It can be a ladybug, it can be a butterfly, it can be, as long as a living thing. It's got this system to bring everything together. Yes. So, yes, being wrong.
They say the person is sleeping.
Same thing. Person, system, also all. Why? Because when you sleep, you also need energy. Why do you need energy? You need energy to grow. You need energy for you to breathe. Okay, you think about it. Do you stop breathing just because you're sleeping? You don't. Okay? So when you breathe, you also need your muscles, okay, that is actually in your rib cage to cause your rib cage, or rather to move your rib cage up and down to cause your lung cavity to expand and contract. Alright, and that will help to take in oxygen which is needed for respiration, carried by your circulatory system. And just because you're sleeping doesn't mean that you stop digesting food. Okay, moving on. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Quickly. Alright. 3, 2, and 1. Question 18. Which of the following reasons best explain why raincoats should be made of plastic instead of wood? So this topic is on materials once again. Alright, so you have to go through to eliminate. So A, plastic is waterproof but wood is absorbent, of course, because you want it to be waterproof so that it doesn't absorb water. For a few reasons. Why? Firstly, you don't want to get wet. Rain doesn't pass through, correct? Secondly, you don't want it to be heavy because when it absorbs water, you are adding weight. Okay? B, plastic is flexible but wood is stiff. Yes. Why? Because you need to wear it. Okay, have to fit the user and allow the user to move. Yes. Okay. So it has to fit the user and allow the user to move. So whenever you think about this, you always make reference to the user. So in this case, I can even use metal, but in this case, metal is waterproof, but why they don't use metal? Okay, because not only it's heavy, it's also heavy, it's stiff, you cannot fit the person, okay, unless you're talking about an armor, but armor is a different thing. The armor, they have rivets, okay, in fact, they segment the armor into different parts, okay. C, plastic is transparent but wood is opaque. This is not the reason. Why? It doesn't matter. Plastic can also be opaque. In fact, the most common color that people would wear for raincoat is yellow, and there is a good reason, because yellow so that people can see you clearly, okay, on a rainy day. Alright, that's why raincoats, right, they used to be made bright yellow so that people can see you from far. Alright, so these are additional reasons. So your answer would be A and B. So look how I actually put a tick and then I circle the answer, and then after that I finally select the option. This will ensure that I don't make any mistake. Okay? Last question for today, question 19. Study the properties of 4 materials M, N, O, P given in the table below. Which material is suitable for making the windscreen of a car? Now, the first thing is always to take a look at what is the purpose of a windscreen. So a windscreen is supposed to protect the user from rain. It also needs to be transparent in order for maximum amount of light to enter the car, so you can see whatever that's happening on the outside. So M, okay, ask you, does a car need to be flexible?
No.
Does a windscreen need to be flexible? No, you need it to be rigid so that it doesn't bend when against the wind. Does it need to be transparent? Yes, because you need maximum amount of light to enter. Does it need to be waterproof? Yes. So based on this, straight away you can eliminate already. M, wrong already. You need wrong. Okay, sorry. M is correct for flexibility. Transparent?
Yes.
Okay, so all three yes, but remember you need to check to make sure that the rest is not correct. So N for Norway is flexible. Straight away cannot use already, so cross out. O, okay, it's not flexible. Oh, but it's not transparent. How are you going to see where you're going? This is wrong. Straight away X out. P, not flexible, good. Transparent, good. Oh, but it's not waterproof. When it rains, that's it. You cannot even sit in your car. So therefore, answer is M. And then I key in. Okay? Okay, question 20. An object was attracted to a magnet as shown in the diagram below. Okay? Which of the four statement is definitely? So the keyword for this question is definitely, means confirm. So by doing this kind of question, you need to basically check through everything and all possibilities. So they tell you X is attracted to a magnet. So X must be of the following properties. It must be either a magnet or it is actually made up of a magnetic material. Alright, so let's go ahead and eliminate. Object X is not a magnet. This is wrong because we know that this is possible in the sense that the opposite poles of X and the south pole can attract. X is made of a non-magnetic material. This is definitely wrong because if it's not a non-magnetic material, it will not be attracted to the bar magnet. Object X is either a magnet or it is made out of magnetic object. This is correct. Object X is neither a magnet or is made out of a magnetic object. This is also magnetic material. This is wrong. So therefore, your answer is actually number 3. Okay, now for this kind of question, it's important that you eliminate. Make sure that everything else is correct. Question 21. N puts a U-shaped magnet just above a pile of paper clips to attract paper clips. Which part of the U shape would attract the most paper clips? Now, the key concept that I try to test you here is properties of magnet. So what are a few? So one of the properties is that opposite poles attract and like poles repel. Another one that you need to know is that, okay, magnetic strength is the strongest at the poles of magnets. So poles are like the end of the magnet. So in this case, for this U-shaped magnet, this is called a U-shaped magnet, just in case you all didn't know. The ends of it will be over here. So for a bar magnet, it will be over here and here. And then you have a button, okay, which is over at the front and the back. So these are the poles of your magnet. So obviously the answer in this case is E and A. Very straightforward. Because E and A is actually the poles of the magnet, which means that they have the strongest magnetic strength. Moving on to question 22. An iron nail becomes an electromagnet when it's placed in a coil of wire connected to batteries. Okay? Shasmin had 4 setups A, B, C, and D as shown in the diagrams below. Question asks you, which setup will be electromagnet? Which setup will the electromagnet attract the most number of paper clips? Now, the first thing we need to know is what exactly is an electromagnet. Okay, so an electromagnet is basically a magnet, okay, that is formed by coiling wire around an object that is made of magnetic material. Okay. So it's basically a magnet that is formed when electric current passes through wires
coil around an object that is made up of magnetic material. So once again, just in case you all don't know what is considered a magnetic material or you all get confused, we always use the short form of coins to help us. Okay? So CO stands for cobalt. I, in this case, stands for iron. N, in this case, stands for nickel. Last but not least, S, in this case, stands for steel. Alright, so these are the type of metals that can form a magnet when coiled around, or it is actually made out of a magnetic material. Okay, so that means it can be attracted by magnets even though it is not a magnet. So the concept of this question is testing you on basically how to strengthen an electromagnet. That's what is testing you on. So how to strengthen an electromagnet? There are basically 3 ways, okay, which I'm going to pad it down here. So how to strengthen electromagnet? So the first way would be to increase the number of batteries in the circuit. And then the second way would be to increase the number of turns or coils of wire around the object that is made up of a magnetic material. So this object, right, usually they will give you in a form of a nail. Like they will tell you things like, oh, iron nail, steel nail, or it can be rod, iron rod, steel rod, because both steel and iron, they are actually magnetic materials. Okay, and last but not least, we are looking at using batteries of a higher voltage. So altogether, there are 3 ways. Now, the most common ways that you're familiar with will be method 1 and 2. So they want an electromagnet that attracts the most number. So of course, you're looking for an electromagnet of the greatest strength. So looking at it, right, you know that straight away set up A and B, they are out. Why? Because they only have 1 and 2 batteries as compared to set up C and D, which has 3. So you know naturally, okay, you know, given all things equal, they are not going to have the highest magnetic strength. So now that you have singled out C and D, look at it, what's the difference? D actually has 20 turns. So 20 turns is more than 10 turns. So therefore, your answer should be D. Okay? Alright, moving on. Question 23. Now the diagram shows a container with some colored water in it. Part Q of the container is sealed with a rubber stopper. A stone is then slowly dropped into the container at P as shown above. What will happen to the water levels P, Q, and R? Now this question is actually testing you on the concept that matter occupies space. So because be it air, be it gas, liquid, or solid, they all occupy space. Alright? We know that when the stone drops into the water, the stone obviously occupies space, right? It has to displace the water. So the water level will go up higher. Okay, it will go up higher. So what happens is that the new water level could be something like this. Okay? We all know that it will increase. Now, the only one that we are in question is actually Q. Now, whether how much Q water level at Q increases, it really depends on the experiment itself. So this is a bit tricky. The water level at Q could either remain the same or it could increase by a little. Reason being that there is actually air here. Now this air actually also occupies space. So because air occupies space, it prevents the water level from going higher. However, we also know that air can be compressed. So because air can be compressed, it can cause your water level to increase just by that little bit over here. Okay? So we need to look at our options to see what is available. So we know that P and R definitely there's an increase. So straight away anything with decrease, wrong. Remains the same, wrong. So straight away 1 and 4 is out. Let's look at R. R increase, okay? Remains the same. This is wrong. So straight away I can cross out number 2 also. So 1, 2, 4 cross out already. So let's check. P increases, R increases, Q remains the same. Now remember I told you that remaining the same is a plausible answer. Okay? So therefore the most plausible answer is number 3. Answer 3. Now moving on to question 24. A plastic cup and a wooden block are placed on a balance scale as shown below. It was observed that the pointer of the balance scale is at the center. Now, a balance scale basically is used to measure mass. Okay? Just so you know. So when it's at the center, or we say that both items that is being weighed is in a horizontal line, it's not tilting to one side, it means that both object has the exact same mass. Now based on the above diagram, which one of the following statement is or are true? A. Both plastic cup and the block have a fixed shape. Now, you are not able to really tell in this experiment because this experiment, the only device that you have is actually a beam balance to measure the mass. So because of that, you're not so sure. So you should cross this out. My apologies. Okay, you should cross this out. Sorry, just give me a second. I think I tapped on the wrong. Okay, sorry, okay, there you go. Now, you should cross this out because the experiment is not trying to find out whether or not they are fixed shape. B. Both plastic cup and wooden block have the same mass. Yes, because why? The pointer is at the center. Okay, both plastic cup and the wooden block have the same volume. Nope, you do not have any measuring device. Now, when you want to measure volume, okay, you can use a measuring cylinder. Okay, you can use a measuring cylinder to do that. Now, of course, you cannot just put the item inside an empty measuring cylinder. You will need to use a measuring cylinder that is big enough to hold the whole object. Fill it in with water first. Okay, quick recap. So you fill it in with, let's just say you know that this is 500 ml. Then you put the object inside. So as you put inside, right, the volume, the water level should increase. And then you read the new volume. What is the new volume? Now the increase in volume is actually equals to the volume of object. And that is how you use the measuring cylinder filled with water, a known amount, to find out what is the volume of your object. Okay, so therefore your answer should be B only. Okay, 24. A telephone wire was set up as shown in the diagram below. It was hung loosely at position B. At which position would the telephone wire be hung during hot and cold, during hot and cold days? Now, straight off the back, because you have done so many questions on heat, you should know that this is a concept that's testing you on expansion and contraction. Okay, so this is why practicing actually helps. Straight off the back, you know it's expansion and contraction. Now, they told you that, they asked you, where would it be during hot and cold days? So during hot days, you know that the wire will gain heat and then it will actually expand. Okay, so what are the possible positions? So we know that C and D, I'm going to use red color. C and D are possible positions for hot days. Why? Because the wire would expand and become longer. So they hang more slack, they hang lower. Now, on a cold day, it should be only position A because wire gets shorter. Okay, so it becomes tighter. Your wire becomes tighter, literally like that. Okay? So at which position? Alright, so during hot days, position C possible, correct? Position A, okay, during cold days is also correct. So number 1 seems correct, but we should always look through all. So during hot days, A, this is wrong. So straight off, option number 2 cross out. Let's look at option number 3. Okay, it says B, during hot day. This is wrong. It shouldn't remain the same. It can only be at C or D. So option 3 wrong. Option 4, C is possible on hot day because it expands. However, on cold days, D is wrong. Why? Cold days should become shorter, wire should be more tight, and so hence only position A. So therefore, your answer is only 1. Okay, 26. Diagram below shows a ball and a ring apparatus. Straight off, expansion and contraction once again. Which of the following is likely to happen if one or both items are heated or cooled? So once again, you know that when something gains heat, it expands. So what you should do is, you should ask yourself, bigger or smaller? So option A, ball is heated, ball cannot pass through ring. Correct, because your ball becomes bigger. Okay, but your ring remains the same. So cannot, so correct. Ring is cooled, ball can pass through. Wrong. Why? Because this one becomes smaller, but your ball didn't become smaller, so your ball cannot fit. So wrong. Ball is cooled, ring is heated, ball can pass through. Correct. Because your ball becomes smaller and your ring becomes bigger. So yes. Ball is heated and ring is cooled, ball can pass through. Wrong. Why? Ball become bigger, ring becomes smaller. Obviously cannot. So therefore your answer is A and C, number 2. Now be very careful when you do this kind of question, right? You should actually do cross and tick at the side of your option. So when you pick your final option over here, you are clear which are the 2 options you want to pick. 27. Okay. Ray-En used the setup below to find out how distance between an object and a light source affect the height of a shadow. Now you have to remember that they're testing you on the distance of light source, position of object, as well as screen. Okay, so we need to remember this, that the closer the light source is to the object, the taller the shadow. So because of that, alright, position EF. So look at the different distance. So you have here from E, F, G, and lastly H. So of all the positions, okay, E should give you the shortest. Okay, because the distance is the furthest away. Okay, the light source distance is furthest away from your object. So the one with the longest would actually be H, or the tallest shadow, and the one that is the shortest will be at E. So based on that, straight off you know already, it should actually be, the shadow should increase as your light source gets closer to the object. Answer number 2. Okay, so you see it's this way, increasing. Okay, last question over here. Ahmad carried an experiment to find out the amount of light detected by the data logger using materials T, U, V in the diagram below. He recorded the results in the experiment in the table below. So this is amount of light detected. So in this case, before we even start, we straight off, we already know roughly that the object, the material that they change probably has different amount of opacity. Okay? So the property of the materials are different. Okay? So what you need to understand that when it comes to light, okay, or opacity, there are 3 main types of properties. You can group them accordingly. The first is actually transparent.
Translucent.
Now, transparent, it allows most light to pass through. So what happens is that you are able to see anything that is very clear on the other side of the object. The second one is actually translucent, whereby it allows some light to pass through. So in this instance, we know that object U and object V, they are both translucent. It allows some amount. Now there is one other one that is not over here,
Opaque.
and that is opaque. Very good. Now opaque material does not allow
Any light.
any light, correct, to pass through at all. So be very careful. It's not lesser but no light. Now which of the following statements about the experiment is or are true? A. The change variables the type of material used. Yes. How do I know? Because they allow different amount of light to pass through. So I know they are not the same. B. Different material allow different amount of light to pass through. Yes, as shown in the table here. The distance of the torch from the material must be kept the same, of course. Okay, remember there's only one change variable in any experiment. Okay, one change variable allowed. So because of that, okay, your material has already been changed. So you cannot change any other thing. So your answer is actually A, B, and C. Alright? So we've come to the end of this paper.